What's up, y'all? I'm on Facebook. It's IG. We go on IG Live, and I'm also going live on YouTube as well. So, oh shoot, we're gonna get into it today. See who's gonna jump on the timeline. Today's topic is going to be Trump, Democrats, Republicans, and all the foolishness. All the foolishness that goes on with our people and politics. Y'all get up in the building, like the video, subscribe, click to get notifications. You know the drill. You know the deal. Okay? You know the deal. So I'm just waiting to see what's cracking. We're gonna get into this and see what really going on. We're gonna see what's really going on out here. Okay. Doing a late night hike, as we call it, the late night hike. Peace to the gods, peace to the earths. You know what I'm saying? Abarigani, Islam, Salam, Etepu, Rahubat, Chino Lako, Ninani, Chief Noble Bandele Elami. We back again in the building. All right. We back in the building for another video, man. We're going live. We're gonna try to keep this live going. But like I said, today's video, we're gonna be dealing with a little bit of politics, like looking at a little bit of the history on the where we at today. Okay, we're gonna look at the politics of today related to the politics of the past. Because one of the things that is interesting is, with this whole thing about Trump, right? We got to deal with Trump. Okay. Trump, the FBI raid on Trump's home, right? Gamers threat from inland Republicans. Okay, this whole thing with Trump and the raid, and they're trying to get Trump on the January 6th issue is all a political game. And I think as melanated people, we don't play this politic game very well at all. And what's weird about it is that what we call so-called black people, they always talking about, we got to go out here and vote. And, our ancestors died for the vote, right? But yet, it seems like when they use their vote, it seems to be very, like, ill-mannered. It feel like it's not educated. We don't vote. I think American in general votes on emotion, but I definitely think melanated people vote at a disadvantage. And I think there's a reason why. And we're going to get into that tonight. Okay, so if y'all in the building, like the video, subscribe, share this video, let them know. Because I want to get into this, man. I really want to get into this. Okay, so we got this thing going on with Trump. And what is crazy to me, and what I have never seen in my years on the planet, is I have never seen a group of people hate Trump like they do. And listen, I'm not a fan of Trump per se. Like I'm not for Trump or against Trump. I try to be critical and look at everything from both sides of everything. So when I'm talking about, I'm critical of Trump when he does things wrong. Yes, has Trump done some things wrong? Heck yeah. Trump has done a few things wrong. Just like Obama did some things wrong. Just like Biden's doing things wrong. Just like George W. Bush did some things wrong. I like to compare Trump to Bush a lot of times. Okay, and I'm not gonna get too far into this, but I want y'all to look at this and think about this. We always talking about what Trump did, but have we forgotten about George W. Bush? Like, have we forgotten what he did when he was in office? And I compare his 8 years in office to Trump's 4 years in office. And I mean, George W. Bush, he had 2 wars going on 2 different fronts. The economy tanked under his administration. Gas prices went up under his administration. The economy was jacked up by the time he got out of office, to the point where everybody was like, oh man, we don't want any Republican. We don't want no conservative Republican person in office at this time. So Obama won based really off a lot of it, not just because he was the so-called first black, which he was not. We know he wasn't the first so-called melanated person in office, but for the record, he's known as the first one. But not just because he was melanated, they got him in, but the fact that the Republicans had left a bad taste in our mouths. And so a lot of people went that way. So the thing about it is, we have forgotten about all these other presidents and all the things that they've done and the racism that they've done. I mean, we can go back to Ronald Reagan. I mean, Ronald Reagan is on record saying, the Africans, he called them monkeys in the UN. Him and another bad president, which was Nixon. So, I mean, like Nixon, I feel like has done way more than Trump has done, but that's not to take Trump off the hook for what he's done. I mean, there's a lot of things that he could have did a lot better, especially with the climate of bringing the country together and the way he handled the so-called COVID situation. I think that was a problem. But other than that, I look at how the media treated Trump versus anything, right? So, well, let's get into this, because the thing about it is Trump came in as a Republican, and he tried to have conservative views, because let's keep it real. A lot of times, a Republican, for him to be in office, he's got to deal with the conservative side of the Republicans. If you don't have enough conservative qualities, then you're going to, not be president. So, Trump had to take on some conservative views. He came in as a Republican, and as he became a Republican, the so-called blacks automatically vote Democrat. It's like by default, they voted Democrat. And I've always wondered why. So, I got to digging up some of the history. So some of these people might know about this. Some people might not know about this. But one thing for sure, there's a history behind these Democratic Republican parties, right? So I kind of want to go into that. Let's look at this. The Democratic Party is the oldest voter-based political party in the world and the oldest existing political party in the United States. The party's modern institutions were formed in the 1830s, 1840s. Okay, so it's important for us to look at the Democrats as you melanated people look at the history of the Democrats. Okay, one of the first parties. Now, what's interesting though about the Democratic Party, is that the Democratic Party has changed significantly during its more than 2 centuries existence. During the 19th century, the party supported or tolerated slavery. Okay, so this is what I want to look at. When we look at the Democratic Party today, as liberal, when we look at the Democratic Party today from a liberal perspective, we tend not to see where the Democrat come from. It says that the party supported or tolerated slavery and it opposed civil rights reform. So, and now you understand this is back what 19th century, 1800s. So like back then, slavery existed. Blacks couldn't vote at that time. So it's important to understand that. But look at where the party was. The party was anti-slavery. The party that was for, pro-abolitionist was not the Democratic Party. The Republican Party, also referred to as the Grand Old Party, the GOP, is one of the two major contemporary political parties in the United States. Since the 1950s, it has been the main rival to Democrats. So the Democratic and Republican is the ones is our staple parties. And they've been that way for well over 100 years. But the Republican Party, known as the Grand Old Party, was just as strong as the Democratic Party. Now, the difference between these two parties was that the GOP was founded in 1854 by what? Anti-slavery activists who opposed the Kansas-Nebraska Act, which allowed for the potential expansion of chattel slavery. So, when we talk about the Republicans, as we look at them today, we look at them as the ones that's racist. We look at the Republicans as the ones who don't want to see a civil rights movement, right? But it's the Republican Party that actually was the abolitionists. It was the Republican Party that was against the expansion of chattel slavery. So it's interesting how it flip-flopped. And the thing about it is how, when, where did it flip-flop? Where did it flip-flop? Yo, what's up, God? Peace to the guy 8.0, aka brother Jamil. Peace in the building. I'm just I got started late tonight, but I'm in here. I'm trying to get it in. You know what I'm saying? Trust me, if you got anything to comment or anything that you want to bring in, go ahead and drop that line. If you like the video, subscribe, y'all, and we're gonna continue getting into this. So my question is, when did Black Americans start voting so heavily on Democrats? Okay, when did they start heavily voting Democratic? Let's look at this. It says in the decade before 1948. So we're talking about like 100 years, after these political parties formed. In the decade before 1948, Black Americans identified as Democrats about as much as they did Republicans. So there was a time when we voted just as much Republican as we do Democrats, right? And why did we do that? Because we're looking at the past party. The Republican Party was the party for slavery, against slavery. It was the Republican Party was against slavery. We voted with the Republican side just as much as we did the Democratic side. And when we look at today, it's like 90% or more vote purely Democratic. No matter what's going on, no matter who the political parties are and the candidates are. I mean, like, we've had weak candidates and we still vote for them. We don't examine the political, what they're talking about, regardless of their political affiliation. We don't do that. We kind of just vote based on, I call it gang affiliation. That's what it really is. It's like we've taken sides now. I feel like so-called Black Americans today seem to have less understanding of politics as it relates to their conditions in the community than the previous so-called blacks of 50 to 60 years ago. Okay, so what happened? Because why are we now voting all the way Democrat? Let's look at this. Say the Democratic Harry Truman made an explicit appeal for the new civil rights measures from Congress, including voter protections, a federal ban on lynching, and bolstering existing civil rights laws. Okay, now I'm gonna tell you something. This is interesting because it said it put a federal ban on lynching. Now, y'all, if you guys got anything in the box to say on this, because from my understanding of this, I don't think that federal ban on lynching really, if it was, it wasn't effective. Number one. Number two, if they had an or a ban on lynching back then, why are they talking about an anti-lynching bill today? So, in my opinion, for me, Truman may have been one of the first to do the liberal bantering to so-called black people. What I mean by that, we're going to get into it about what Malcolm X, but the liberals seem to always want to rally around so-called blacks, or what you call melanated people, at voting time, or to appease to them in a time of voting. And so I feel like this right here, Harry Truman, was one of the first to start to use this practice in order to sway so-called black people over to the Democratic side. Okay, so that's the first jump. The second jump is that was the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Now, see this right here, because if when you go back to the early part of the 60s, President JFK was in office. We all know that JFK was a popular president, and a lot of melanated people was attracted to him. Okay, you know, the media, you know, he looked good, beautiful wife, children, he looked like the American dream, but JFK also pandered to the so-called black people, because the civil rights movement was beginning to come into fruition around the time of JFK. And so JFK did a lot of talking about, you know, civil rights and, you know, black people, and, you know, creating more opportunity for them and those things. Now, you know, we all know that JFK was taken out before he ended his first term. But when you look at what he did, most of the civil rights stuff was done by Johnson, his vice president, who became president. So a lot of that civil rights stuff came under him. But at the same time, a lot of social programs, again, started to come up under the Democratic Party. So the Democratic Party began to be really, you know, they were locked into social programs, things of that nature, right? Let me see what's going on in the chat. Yeah, I know, God. I'm just, you know, showing what's going on. It's like, if we are going to, if we really gonna come out of this as melanated people in this country and gain political power, I don't think that we need to be using the political systems that were already in place, because they seem to go back and forth. We seem to go back and forth. Okay, like we'll jump from one party to another. Okay. Now, I wanted to also let me go back a little bit, because when we talk about these political parties are funded by, of course, big corporations and private people. One of the things that, for me, with Trump is that we tend to judge Trump's how he is based on how the media has portrayed him. Now, to my melanated people who out there who are thinkers, right, who got a thinker on them, I tend to tell them, let's look critically at what's going on with Donald Trump. Like I said, Donald Trump, he's an Albion just like any of the rest of them. And does he have racist views? I mean, what president? To my understanding, most presidents have racial undertones toward melanated people, regardless of what affiliation. I mean, because you can look at Bill Clinton. If you look at the Democrats that come out, Bill Clinton, Jimmy Carter. I mean, you like, oh, well, they were good people, this and that. I mean, they come out of like southern, like Georgia for Jimmy Carter and Arkansas. I mean, these are very racist places. And I'm not saying that Jimmy Carter or Bill Clinton was purely racist, but they come from a racist system, a purely racist system of the South. And so for me to think that they didn't have any kind of like negative thinking or had any of that in their minds would be, to me, mistaken. You know, but so-called black people, you know, they love Bill Clinton because he played a saxophone on an Arsenio Hall show, right? And they deemed him as black, you know, and I just think that's misleading, because the media will mislead us. The media has agendas that they create and the perceptions that they give us. So when Trump got in office, I felt like Trump was not supposed to be in office, and I felt like he was not part of the establishment. What do I mean by that? Because you're going to say, well, Donald Trump, he was rich, and, you know, why wasn't he part of the establishment? Okay. Although Trump is allegedly rich, maybe not even rich as he say he is, but that's another story. But just because he's rich don't mean that he's totally connected in the in crowd. What do I mean by that? Most presidents have some affiliation to certain organizations. Now, one of the organizations I'm not going to get into, but I'm going to throw it out there, is the Triliteral Commission. That's one of them. Okay. I want y'all to Google Triliteral Commission, and I want you to look at members of the Triliteral Commission. Now, one day I got into an argument with some conservative Albions. Okay, some so-called white, some conservative Albions. I get into an argument with them because I'm coming from that so-called black thinking, you know, and we're talking about Trump, and we're saying, hey, Trump, I'm talking against Trump, saying, you know, like, oh, he's part of the clique too, this and that, and they said, no, he's not a part of the establishment. And I'm like, what are you talking about, right? So I go do my own research to try to clap back at them. When I did my research, I looked up Donald Trump Triliteral Commission, right? I did Donald Trump Council of Foreign Relations. And guess what? He wasn't a member of any of those organizations. Now, y'all like, well, what does that mean? I need y'all to look up Council of Foreign Relations. And we're gonna go into Council of Foreign Relations, okay? We're gonna look into this. Council of Foreign Relations. Look, the membership in the Council of Foreign Relations comes from two. Hold on. Let me back up. Let me back up. Back up. All right. So, Council of Foreign Relations is an American think tank specialized in what? U.S. foreign policy and international relations. Founded in 1921, it is a what? Non-profit organization that is independent in what? nonpartisan. Okay. What does that mean? Okay, so first of all, let's break this down. We're talking about think tanks. What I need y'all to understand is that one of the main things in America and abroad that Europeans and Albion Americans will do is they have what we call think tanks. These think tanks come up with all the clever ideas on how they're going to deal with foreign policy, how they're going to deal with the so-called minorities in America, how they're going to deal with the so-called third party, not third party, but the third world countries in the world. Okay, they do all that. This is what think tanks do. Europeans have a lot of think tanks, but when you have a think tank that is basically has wealthy investors, okay, the Council of Foreign Relations, or the Council on Foreign Relations, is a private, wealthy organization. I mean, you got like Rockefeller and all of these different wealthy people who founded it and are part of the membership. Okay. Now, what I need y'all to understand is this: this Council on Foreign Relations, this Council of Foreign Relations membership has two types: an individual and a corporate. Okay, so let's look at that right there, because it is in the best interest of a lot of people to be part of this wealthy organization. It's just like any other wealthy organization. You get power and you get influence. Okay, so when you got these wealthy people who have a private industry, and their industry is involved in dealing with foreign and domestic affairs. Okay, these wealthy people can influence the public policies domestically and foreign with the wealth and the money that they have. Okay, so the Council of Foreign Relations will have major corporations that are involved. Okay, and they got private members. Who are the private members? And this is what's important. The private members of the Council of Foreign Relations is, you would be surprised. When I did my research, and y'all do the research, I want y'all to do a internet search or research on, is Donald Trump a member of the Council of Foreign Relations? Is he part of Trilateral Commission? Now look, I'm just going to put it up here. Your boy Jumpin' Joe, he is a member of the Council of Foreign Relations. And guess what? Not just to mention that he's part of the foreign relations, your homegirl, Hillary Clinton, is also a member of the Council of Foreign Relations. If you don't believe me, look it up. Look it up. All right? Check it out. So, my thing is, when we start looking at behind the politics, behind these parties, we start looking at who's really running it. Now, a lot of people who, claim to be what they call conspiracy theories or whatnot, they have an understanding of that. Peace, God. We got the Moorish University Society of Tribes jumping on the line. Yo, y'all, please subscribe, like the video. Like I said, y'all, I'm on Instagram Live, and I'm also on YouTube Live. So if you guys on Instagram, y'all want to see what's really going on, you can jump on YouTube and check it out. Okay, under New Kemet TV. That's New Kemet, NEWKEMIT TV. Okay, so check it out. So let's get back to this, man, because y'all really need to really check what's going on. We said Joe Biden. Joe Biden is a member of the Council of Foreign Relations. Like we said, the Council of Foreign Relations is designed to influence public policy, international policies. They even got a magazine called what's it called? Something Affairs. I can't Council Affairs. I used to get that magazine because that magazine basically tries to show you the flow of the policies. Okay, what's going on in the world? So we up here arguing about liberal and conservative. We up here arguing about Roe versus Wade and the right to abortion, or to abort or not to abort. And the true power is coming from behind those political parties. Those political parties have, in the past 50 years, have been co-opted. Okay, they've been co-opted. But my people, my melanated people, they want to stay in one game. We got Crips and Bloods, bro. That's what they are. Think about it. The political parties are Crips and Bloods. Okay, look at their colors. We got red and blue. And trust me, this ain't just so-called melanated black people. You know, melanated black people are stuck on stupid when it comes to the Democratic Party. But I know Albions, I know so-called white people. Though Albions, they doing the same thing. When I talk to them, it was like for example, I'm gonna give you an example. When Barack Obama was running for his second term, and he was running against Mitt Romney. Now, I mean, regardless of what you say about Obama, I'm not necessarily against or for Obama, but looking at those two for face value, I understood that Obama already had office and he made more sense than Mitt Romney. Okay. And when I would talk to the Albions, I'm like, who y'all voting for? They were like, we voting for Mitt Romney. And I said, so y'all voting for, no, don't get me wrong. I'm not, this ain't a strike against anybody, but Mitt Romney was a Mormon, is a Mormon. Now, we all both know that in order for you to be president, you're going to have to be a Christian, regardless if it's a liberal or a conservative. Now, if you're a Republican, you got to be a Christian conservative. If you're a Democrat liberal, you got to be a straight up Christian. Okay, some faction, Mormons are looked at as like an offshoot, like a sect. They don't look at Mormons as Christians in the same way. Okay, so was Mitt Romney gonna be president? No, we knew that, but yet those Albions, so-called whites, voted that way. And it's interesting that so-called Albions and whites will vote Republican or conservative, but yet they are using the social services that the liberals tend to want to use and give you. So, for example, you know how many people on welfare? More Albions on welfare than melanated people, right? I know a lot of Albions who got food stamps, EBT cards, right? But they'll vote Republican as big government, get rid of big government, get rid of social programs. We're not a social country, socialism. You know, they all get caught up in that rah-rah that the Republicans are talking about. Now, I'm just saying, I'm critical of Republicans and the Democrats, okay? Both of them have some points that are positive, and both of them have points that are negative, okay? And what I'm saying is, when it comes to these Albions, they just as stuck sometimes and stupid on a political party as the so-called melanated people. But the thing about melanated people is they don't really gain any real power when they vote Democratic. You understand what I'm saying? It's like, let's look at now. You got Jumpin' Joe in office, and he rallied and said, oh, the black people need this, and we're going to fight. We're going to do something against police brutality. We're going to make everybody feel a certain way. That rally for so-called black people to vote for him, that's what they did. Plus the fact that they was already brainwashed about Trump. Okay? Trump was not what the media claimed him to be. Now, like I said, we know Trump. Look, Trump, I'm going to say this. Trump was a narcissist, and he is a greedy corporate dude, right? But he's not affiliated with the overview of corporations, or not the overview of corporations, but the overview of the private elite. He wasn't working with the private elite. It seemed like the Democrats are now working with the private elite more so than the Republicans. I'm gonna say this: the Republicans back in the 90s, they were looked at more as New World Order. George Bush, even going back to the 80s, Ronald Reagan, George Bush, they were all part of the Council of Foreign Relations as well. George Bush, I'm talking about first George Bush, spoke about New World Order all the time. And they were definitely part of that global elite. But it seemed that Obama, when he got in office, he was backed by the Council of Foreign Relations. You can go back, if you Google Obama and Council of Foreign Relations, they had backed him already. There's articles where it says the Council of Foreign Relations backs Obama as president before he got in office. So I knew he was going to be in office, because I'm always looking at how does the private elite look at candidates, not how our personal beliefs or experience, or just because he's black and this and that. Those are all counter. Like the Democratic Party, they use trickery and deceit. So they'll go get you like Barack. They'll go put Barack in office and make him think that he's black, right? Like he's black because his daddy is black. He looked black, right? But he was raised by Albions. His mother is an Albion. And that's no offense that he's biracial. I'm not saying anything. But what I'm saying is, do you notice that everybody that the Democrats put in office are really biracial, and they're not really what they call ADOS. They're not African descendants of slavery. And I'm just using that term to make a point that a lot of these people are not based on American slavery. These so-called melanated blacks, like Jesse Jackson, for example. Now, Messi Jesse Jackson. He couldn't have been in office. He wasn't gonna get in office. He was an American descendant. Okay, but his agenda wouldn't have been what they wanted his agenda to be. Even though he was, he shuck and jive, but he still wasn't part of that agenda all the way. Now, you got Barack Obama. Like I said, he's biracial. He did marry a so-called black family. Okay, so that was his credibility to the black people, that he married into the black family. Okay, so it appears that he's for black people, right? He acted the part, everything, right? But when he got in office, he really didn't do a lot for black people. Okay, but he ran on that. He kind of ran on the fact that he's black. Black people thinking, oh, we've arrived. Oh, we've overcome. Everything that Martin Luther King was talking about has come to reality. And it was just a trick. It was another liberal democratic trick on the people. Okay, so we get 8 years of him, and then finally he's out, and we get Trump in. Now, like I said, Trump wasn't part of any of those affiliations. None of them. He wasn't part of any of that affiliation. right? Let me see what my man got to say. It says, on foreign relations, the dealings and relationships between nations. One noun, foreign relations, the quality or character of foreign affairs as a consequence of foreign policy. All right, let's see what else we got. What else is going? We need to look these infrastructures more closely. And that's what I'm saying. Like, the fact is that we get stuck on the Democratic Republican Party, but those parties are really not what's really influencing the flow of America. If you are not in line with these elite private industry groups, then you are going to get in trouble. And that's what happened to Trump. The thing about him, his narcissism was a threat to the power structure. The problem with him is because he's a narcissist and he did what he wanted to. I mean, you look at Trump. When he got on TV, he said what he wanted to. He didn't listen to his advisors. You know, he was rogue. He was a very rogue guy. That when you have a guy in office who you can't control, that's a threat. The Liberal Party was used and hijacked by the private elite. You got people like George Soros and people like that who got a lot of money, who can spend and create chaos and pay off people to do things. And one of the things that you got to look at is that when Trump was in office, the liberal media in particular, pay attention to this. The liberal media was very, very, very hard and had a microscope up Trump's butt, because anything and everything that he said was scrutinized to the point where it was ran heavily in rotation on the news. When you looked at like very liberal based media like CNN, like the main media like CNN, MSNBC, you got Fox as well. Fox is not necessarily liberal, but you got ABC and CBS. All those except for Fox is pretty liberal. It's a liberal news. I mean, like, even when you watch the late night TV with Stephen Colbert, he would every night just rip into Trump every night, right? Now, as a comedian, I get it, but when I look at how they did that with Trump, now I look at how Biden's in office, and I'm telling you, Biden screws up all the time. Biden can't have talk. Biden seems to be like losing his like mind. Like he can't focus. He seems very propped up as a person. And so we got this propped up president, okay, that's very old, that the media lets get by. Biden's presidential rating, his ratings as a president in office is one of the lowest ratings that you ever find. But you really don't hear them talking about that. You really don't hear a lot of noise about his ratings. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, they mention it, but I'm saying, like, you got to really go like the Fox or Newsmax to really see what they're saying, okay? Because the media is in control by foreign policy, by these private people, right? What did it say? We don't have no skin in the game, and that's exactly what I'm about to say, man. So let me show y'all. Let's get back to this. I want to look at this. I want to look at what Malcolm X said. Malcolm X is one of our, ancestors. Ashe to brother Malcolm El Shabazz. Now, brother Malcolm said this: the political philosophy of black nationalism only means that the black man should control the politics and the politicians in his own community. What happened to that? What happened to now? He, like he said, he used the word black. I'm a Moor. We Moors. We don't, I understand the word in the context of black. I'm not, getting into that. But what I understand the context of what he's saying, as melanated people in our own community, we don't have no skin in the game. We don't have control over the politics or the politicians in our community. We follow who they put up for us. Okay, so for example, we went with Obama. We went with Obama. Now look at today. Look at Joe Biden. They went with Joe Biden because one, everybody was mad at Trump. But number two, the reason why, because look at the political games that they play. They put another, what we call biracial woman in VP. So she made a historical, she's put in history now because she's the first, not just woman, but the first biracial woman. Now check it out. When she was running for office to be president, they kept saying she'd be the first black African American in office. Now the chick is biracial. She's half Indian, and then her daddy is Jamaican. Daddy's Jamaican, right? So she's not really part of this American ADOS situation. That's one. But the other thing is that she married an Albion. Okay, so what's her past? Well, she went to Howard University, which is, a predominantly melanated group of people, a melanated college. So so she gives us the perception that she's black. When she ran, they said that she would be the first black woman in office as vice president, the first black woman to be vice president. But look at it today. If you look at today, guess what they call her? They say she's the first Indian American woman in office. They say that she's the first Asian American woman in office. So she's not even claiming to be melanated black ADOS, what you call ADOS. She's not claiming to be a Moor. She's not claiming to be even so-called black. Okay? She's claiming anything else, just like Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods claimed his Asian side. She does the same thing. She's claiming that Asian side. But they got us looking at it like she's one of us. That she's gone through the same problems we had. When she in office, when she's as a prosecutor in California, she's locking up more melanated people than anybody. You understand what I'm saying? So what's going on with that? Look, them facts. We need to improve our institutions. Brother Jamil, that's true. Like we talked about the other night, dealing with that, improving our institutions and not just improving them, but creating institutions. Which leads me back to my last point. You know what I'm saying? Before I get into that, let me look, brother. What we got here? Brother Eric B. A. Moore. Look, facts. They lied for sure. See, like that's the thing. One thing that Malcolm, if you read Malcolm's stuff, whether we don't always have to agree with everything Brother Malcolm say, but one thing Malcolm says is that the liberal party they're like sly foxes, where the Republican Conservative Party may be wolves, but you got the sly fox. The Democrats, he compared them to a fox because a fox appears to look like it's grinning at you. So you think that it's happy, but Actually, it's not. It's really about to tear you from limb to limb, but it smiles as it does it. And that's what he compared the liberals to back in the day. I mean, we talk about over 50 years ago, Malcolm was already speaking on the same thing that we doing now. He was warning us. Okay? They use trickery. The Republicans or conservative side really don't do that. They don't do that. The conservative side seems to be more in line with constitutional law anyway. You see what I'm saying? They are in line with constitutional foes. So they got us all tricked where we're just focused on one group. This is my solution, and this is where we have to go, and this is where we need to come together as melanated people, because Malcolm said we gotta control our own community. So what is it we need to do? We have to create a political party that can work with any party that gets across the needs of the community. So if we had a party that they looked at what the Republican Democratic Party was doing, they looked at whoever was in office, our political party as a whole would be able to make our own influences on whoever is in office. Okay, instead of just siding with one. I'm gonna tell you a good example of what happens when we do that. For example, if y'all remember Ice Cube, like last year, what was it well, not last year, but like a couple years ago, when Ice Cube was proposing a plan for so-called black people, right? He had a plan, an economic plan, and he pitched it to Trump. Now, see, this is where the brainwashing goes, because he pitched it to Trump, and everybody criticized him. Ice Cube said, I'm pitching it to Democrats and Republicans. Trump is the one in office right now. Why wouldn't I go to him and see what I can do? But black people didn't want him to talk to Trump. They didn't want him to deal with the conservative Republican side. So they called him all kind of names. They called him sellouts and everything, because he wanted to work with whoever was going to work the best for his agenda. And let me ask y'all something. When you are trying to get something across, if you're trying to get a loan or you're trying to get some money from somebody, aren't you going to go with the person who is going to give you the best deal? Who's going to give you like the best interest rate? Wouldn't you go with the best interest rate? Or wouldn't you go with the person who's giving you the best bang for your buck? Would you say, well, you don't boycott or anything against anybody else? Like y'all, and don't get me wrong, like I don't like Walmart, right? Y'all, a lot of people know I don't like Walmart because of the things he does. So I'm just gonna use him as an example. So if I'm saying like y'all go to Walmart to try to get the best deal. If you see a product, you go to the best place. So why is it that the so-called black people don't go to the person, regardless of the party? Why they don't go to the party or the person that has the best, who can give them the best of their needs? I just want to know, man. Somebody tell me. Somebody in the chat. Somebody in the chat tell me why it's so wrong to talk to a Republican or conservative if they're in office. Why would it be wrong to appease or to try to influence? See, the thing about melanated people is they lack influence in their own communities. Okay? They lack influence. Look, we talked earlier about think tanks. How many so-called melanated or black, so-called black, or melanated Moorish think tanks do we have? And when we have these think tanks, do we have people who are influential going to these think tanks? Do we have people who have money, who are wealthy, that are melanated, coming to our think tanks? I'm just asking. Do we have think tanks? Do we have it where we're going to say, hey, what is the agenda for the next 5 years for this community? If we got a community, why we don't come together? Man, we can't even get so-called black people to go to the community priority board. They just want to complain. And ain't never been to a community board, ain't been down to no mayors, nothing. They ain't been on to none of that. What I'm saying is, melanated people don't have the influence because they haven't come together in order to bring their power and money. Melanated people create a vast amount of money every year. From what I am aware, melanated people generate close to like $2 trillion a year. And that money could be used to influence the things in the community and in the nation in general. If they organize a political party that would work with the larger political parties, okay, if they did that, so if we had, let's say we had a party called, let's just come up with a name. I mean, the ADOS party, okay, or the melanated party, right? And that melanated party had the ear of all the melanated people, okay? And so what this melanated party would do is say, let's look at the party, let's look at, like, say, Trump versus Hillary, right? If we had a party that looked at both parties closely and was in cahoots with both sides and decided who they was going to back, not just politically, but I'm talking about influentially with money and wealth. See, if they put their wealth behind that, now that party owes them a debt because they helped them get in. It's like having a political block, like a block. Okay, so what I'm saying is, if we had a political party whose basic their basic job was to seek out the best political person, whatever side is on, and then make sure that they influence that person or that party at that time. Economically, donating, I mean, I ain't talking about just $10 in this. I'm talking about, like, if we had, as a collective, if we got trillions of dollars, you can't tell me that we couldn't put $1 million on whatever political party that we needed to ensure that they win, and we rub their hands just like any other political party do. Okay, what I'm saying is, we gotta get our own party and we gotta get our own organization. We gotta get our own political party. We can't keep continuously just to rely on the Democratic Party to give us empty threats. You know, I've talked about it before. I mean, it's like, what has Joe Biden really gave you? Like, he's giving you a empty holiday while he's giving, the Asians, He's using his executive powers to protect them. Well, why isn't Joe Biden using his executive powers for you? Because do you really have a real skin in the game? So that, y'all, that's pretty much it right there, man. I appreciate everybody in and out. I appreciate my brothers coming on the line. Peace and love to everybody, man. And I'm gonna get up out of here for the night until tomorrow. Peace and love. Tuta Nana.